In 2015, I clearly remember on November 10th, a recruiter calls me saying that, hey, congratulations, we would like to extend an offer for this position and here are the details. So what do you say? Without even thinking and realizing what it is, I am like, yes, because I was so excited. I was like, this is my first full-time job offer. I didn't even think about it. And I just said right away. And then they sent me the details and I signed the paperwork. There you have it. I had my first project manager job and I never negotiated. After a few months working in the company, I realized that I could be making $20,000 to $40,000 more on overall compensation package. And the crazy part is that 3 years later, I got promoted as an engineering manager. So I had a team of software engineers. My responsibility was to hire software engineers. So I was on the other side of the table where when I used to hire engineers, they were negotiating with recruiters and recruiter would have to come to me because ultimately power was given to me because we had budget that, hey, you have about $1 million and you need to hire 10 engineers. So I could have $100,000 for 10 engineers or I could have $200,000, 5 engineers whatsoever. I know from the other side as well how to negotiate. In this video, I want to teach you some tips and tricks which you should be using for negotiating your salary and also the things you should not do while you're negotiating salary. Let's go. Tip number 1 is becoming familiar with salary trends and doing your homework. This should go without saying. You cannot negotiate anything if you don't know what is the salary range you should be negotiating, what is your worth, what is the company pay typically for this role or for this position, for this level of experience. So you should be doing this research before even you start negotiating. You're probably wondering like, Yuri, how do I know what is my worth or what is the salary range? Here's how you can know. 5 websites which you should definitely be researching on this website. Number 1 is Glassdoor. Number 2 is levels.fyi. Number 3 is Fishbowl. Number 4 is blind.com. And number 5 is my favorite one, which is flcdatacenter.com. Especially if you're an immigrant, flcdatacenter.com is an amazing website. You can literally go there and type your position, type the state and city you are in, and it's gonna spit out all the different types of salary range. Not only just one salary range, they will also give you level 1, level 2, level 3. That's the different types of experience you have for each level. And why? Because all the H-1B visa, if you are on immigrant visa, you have to report those salary. That's a public record, so it has to be there. And similarly, levels.fyi and Glassdoor will also have the same data and you can refer to that. So that way you know a typical salary range. Here's a bonus tip which you should be doing. You should be reaching out to your people who are working already in that company. And I'm hoping that you have watched my other videos and podcasts where we've talked about how you can network and know all the interview questions and tricks and things before you start interviewing. So hopefully you can now reach out to them saying like, hey, I got the job offer and I'm wondering like, what's the typical compensation? Like, what do they offer in the package? You know, is it negotiable? Like, and all of that. I have done that myself. When I switched my job 1 year earlier, I had 6 different job offers and every single job offers was through referral. And I always understood what is the salary range and what is the compensation I can negotiate and all of that. Doing this is going to help you so much because you feel a lot more confident because you know what you're talking about. So knowledge is powerful. Do your research. Tip number 2 is salary is not the only negotiable. I've just made a video which is 5 things I learned about salary. If you haven't watched it, you should absolutely watch it. It's about the different types of salary people should consider. But a lot of time people just think about salary as the base pay and never think about all the other things they could be negotiating. People are so stuck on like $65,000 or $70,000. That's the base pay. They want to just increase that. But there are so many things you could be increasing, like relocation bonus, your signing bonus, your annual performance review, stock, equity, ESPP program, vacation time. Yes, I have negotiated my vacation time from 15 days to 28 days. It is possible. You can negotiate it. Retirement investment accounts, childcare, healthcare benefits, maybe working from home. And if you're working from home, do you get reimbursed for all the work from home equipments, phone bills, internet bill, gym, all of those things you can negotiate. Also remember, like I was a hiring manager and we are given a strict budget on the base pay. We are not given budget on all the bonuses and all the other things. So that's a little bit more flexible because it's one time versus the salary base pay, which is recurring. So we are so much more restrained. You have to be certain range. So if you keep negotiating only on your base pay, you might not win. So better understand all the other things you could be negotiating and maybe negotiate that. Tip number 3 is to identifying your negotiable and non-negotiable. List down your deal breakers. I've done this when I was interviewing last year. I had 6 job offers and my deal breakers were very, very clear. I don't want hybrid model. Neither I want like traveling like 50% where 3 days I'm working from Bay Area and then 3 days I'm coming back or whatsoever. It has to be work from home. If it is not, sorry, I can't take the job offer. Second one is my financial budget. Example, $5,000 is my living expense and another $5,000 for my vacation. Total is $65,000, 30% tax, so and so, and I need 401k and healthcare and all of that. That brings me to roughly $90,000. I would like to have $90,000. If they cannot do $90,000, that's a deal breaker for me. Now, keep in mind, I also had 7 years of experience. So if you are like a fresher, don't be like, my financial budget is this much and I have to pay off loan, so you have to give me so much. If you're a fresher, you cannot like do that. Another deal breaker for me was my role. It was very important that I am not getting into the technical role because it's very easy for you to deviate your career. I was very focused. I want to be a product manager. I want to be a technical program manager, and I want to be people manager at the very end. Like that's who I am. That's my identity. That's what my core skills are. There are companies who are like, can you do a little bit of SQL? You may have to do training, not on the first like year, but eventually you will have to become technical and, do some technical things. Like, I'm sorry, that's not what I want to do. I don't want to sign up for that. So that's a deal breaker. So write down your deal breakers because you have a clear list that if they don't match this, then that's not the right job offer for you. And rest other things are your trade-offs. Like what can you trade off? Can you trade off title versus like location versus so and so? Whatever that is, write down your negotiable and non-negotiable. Tip number 4 is understanding your leverage. This is very, very important. If you have multiple job offers, you have a very high leverage. I had 6 job offers. So when I was negotiating, I was very confident because I'm like, yeah, if one of them doesn't work, it's fine because I have another 5 job offers. So I had a very strong leverage. Also, you should be confident on your skills. Like even if you don't have job offers, but if you're strongly getting like so many interviews and you are interviewing actively and you have multiple interviews lined up, that's a good sign. That means that you still have a strong leverage versus not having any interviews. And that's the only interview after like 6 months of applying. Then yeah, maybe, be okay with your leverage. And when you use your leverage, never say that I have another job offer which is paying me so and so much money, so you pay that much. Don't do that. You should rather say, I'm considering other multiple offers. I would really like to be in this range. That is how you negotiate it. Try not to compare 2 companies and tell them like, my other offer is paying me so much. So can you match that? That's very risky. Similarly, if you're in your current company and you want to negotiate your pay raise, please never say that I'm looking for the job market and I'm seeing that there are higher salaries available, so I would like to get a higher pay. That's not going to go nicely, and in fact, you will not get a high pay and maybe even get laid off. So I would rather focus on your accomplishment. Like, hey, I've been doing market research and I realized that, I could get a promotion based on all of this accomplishment in this first year. I think I would like to apply for a promotion. And if you don't think so, what can I do to get there? So that way it gives them an opportunity to give you direction, like how can you increase your salary. Tip number 5 is timing is everything. Time it appropriately. So here's what's going to happen. When you apply for a job, the first call will be from recruiter. They will call you and they will get all your basic information and they will quickly throw a question like, hey, I was just curious, like, what is your salary expectation? That is just a trap they want to put you in. So never ever say my salary expectation is like, 50,000 to 70,000 or 100,000. Don't say that. So recruiters really want to trap you into a range and also want to see if it's worth pursuing or not. Here's how you need to deal with that. You need to say, I haven't really thought about it. I'm really curious to understand my role and responsibility, but I'm curious to know if you know what is the typical salary range for this role. Now you have reversed the game and you have put them in the position where they have to tell you what is the salary range. And then they'll say like, well, the salary range is like 100 to 130, and you're like, oh, is that a base pay or a compensation pay? So you don't let them ask you, you ask them. And they're like, oh, no, that's just a base pay. And yeah, we'll do the stock equity and all of that. And then they will only say like, but you know what? We'll discuss all of that during the offer stage when we get there. Don't worry about it. But does that fit under your range? At that point of time, you kind of have to tell them because they've already given you a range. So you're like, yeah, I think so. And so really that's how you handle that situation. But never ever start negotiating on the first call. Finish the process, have a job offer, and then negotiating, because they have spent so much time and energy. As a hiring manager, I have spent time, I have put my resources to interview you or interview the person, and we've spent so much time. Now we don't want to lose at the very end of the stage. So you have a leverage over there. So instead of negotiating on the first stage, wait until the last stage and then negotiate. Tip number 6 is consider the whole deal and understand your trade-off. Someone like me who did the master's in computer science, and I really wanted to do something more people management, project tech management role, which was business analyst, product manager, program manager, project manager. So my trade-off was like, I'm okay if I get less salary because I want to step into this role. So I knew my trade-off. Like I knew that I'm going to be okay if they get me into the position I want to get, because otherwise I will have to be doing software engineering and be like miserable with that job, and I don't want to do that. And I would rather enjoy and live every single morning and be happy and excited about the Mondays, because I love project management. I love people. So my whole point is that consider the whole deal and also understand your trade-off. So maybe they're offering you a better location. Maybe they're putting you in Bay Area. Being in Bay Area, less salary, it's going to be hard, but you are going to be in the greatest mine and in the Silicon Valley. And if you're in the tech world, that's the best place to be. So maybe you will increase your salary in 2 years because you are going to be surrounded with so many companies, and maybe that's a good trade-off. Maybe it is the flexibility. Maybe the salary is like $90,000, but you have 30 days of time off, and maybe you're trading off between a startup and a branded company. Anyway, so my point is that you understand the whole deal before you get into negotiating mode. All right, before I talk about what you should not do, here's the last step, which is practice your delivery. This is going to be a conversation. Sometimes this conversation is verbally and it's not on email. You ideally want to do all the negotiation in email because it's all in written format versus on the phone. Plus, when you're on the phone, you are very nervous, versus if you are in the email, you have time to think about, you can show your friends and your mentor and all of that. So always try to negotiate on email format or in email format versus negotiating on the phone. They will want to negotiate on the phone because they have a lot more leverage. You want a job, they want you, and you're going to be nervous. But if that happens, you want to practice your delivery. You want to understand what are your negotiating points, what are your deal breakers, what are you going to negotiate now that you know these are the salary range, this is what other people have gotten in before, and here's your experience. You know you should be getting. So practicing that delivery is going to help. Very, very helpful. Just like you practice your mock interviews, practice mock salary negotiation as well. Here are the 3 things you should not be doing while you're negotiating. Number 1 is don't lie or bluff. I've seen this many times where I can easily catch people when they say like, yeah, I've got another offer and this company is offering me and so. It's so easy to tell that bluff. Maybe they'll say like, all right, if you really want, you may have to show me the offer letter. And now you're kind of in a trouble. Now you lose the offer which you already have because you don't have anything to show. So don't lie and bluff way too much. I would rather keep it like be honest, be humble, and yet confident. Another thing is you should not negotiate just to negotiate. I've seen this thing that now that, obviously everyone says that you should negotiate your salary. So people just randomly negotiate. If you're really happy with the offer you have, be okay with it. You don't have to negotiate. But I will say you should always negotiate. But don't just negotiate like even after negotiating like you've gotten it. Don't just like simply keep negotiating it. And that can create like a negative impression if you're pushing too hard. Then they're like, Do we really want a team member like this? Be careful, find a balance when to negotiate and when to stop. And that brings me to another thing which you shouldn't be doing is to extend the timeline way too much, because you're like, I'm interviewing and my final round is here, so can I extend it because I'm gonna get this another offer and then I'll compare that two offers. Sure, take your time, but don't just keep extending it and don't just keep negotiating so much. They are also at the same time interviewing and finding another candidate, and they might like, all right, well, we are done with this person because we really like this other guy, so let's just hire him. I've done that many times. So be careful how much to negotiate and when to stop it, and don't just unnecessarily extend it. And understand the economy you are in when you are negotiating salary, because in 2020 and 2021 there was a peak in the salary, so everyone got so much salary, and like 400,000 salaries, 500,000 salaries. It was like fun stuff because the economy was rising at that time. And right now the economy is not so great, so that's why you hear all the layoffs, because they did overhiring and they overcompensated some of the people, and because of that they had to now balance it out. So right now, if you are negotiating, understand it's a challenging economy, so you may not get what you want. You have that deal breaker. If they match it, cool. Now whatever the trade-off you're going to get, if you are watching this in 2023 around April, May, it's a challenging economy. But maybe after 6 months it might be different case. You can negotiate. So just understand the economy you are in at the time of negotiation. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did enjoy it, I'm pretty sure you're gonna like this one, which is about 5 things I learned about my salaries, and also this one, which is once you get salary, how do you start managing your finances. I'll see you guys in the next one. Until then, keep smiling and keep hustling. You gotta hustle every single day.